country on the other side, to a piece of lowland lying along the river bank, where he once had found and carried home to reset a big bed of ginseng. If he could get only 1/2 pound of roots from there now, they would serve his purpose. He went down the bank, Belshazzar at his heels, and at last found the place. Many trees had been cut, but there remained enough for shade. The fields bore the ragged, unattractive appearance of old. The Harvester smiled grimly as he remembered that the man who lived there once had charged him for damage he might do to trees in driving across his woods, and boasted to his neighbours that a young fool was paying for the privilege of doing his grubbing. If Jameson had known what the roots he was so anxious to dispose of brought a pound on the market at that time, he would have been insane with anger. So the Harvester's eyes were dancing with fun, and a wry grin twisted his lips as he clambered over the banks of the recently dredged river and looked at its pitiful condition and straight, muddy flow. "Appears to match the remainder of the Jameson property," he said. "I don't know who he is or where he came from, but he's no farmer. Perhaps he uses this land to corral the stock he buys until he can sell it again." He went down the embankment and began to search for the location where he formerly had found the ginseng. When he came to the place he stood amazed, for from seed, roots, and plants he had missed, the growth had sprung up and spread, so that at a rapid estimate the Harvester thought it contained at least 5 pounds, allowing for what it would shrink on account of being gathered early. He hesitated an instant and thought of coming later, but the drive was long and the loss would not amount to enough to pay for a second trip. About taking it he never thought at all. He once had permission from the owner to dig all the shrubs, bushes, and weeds he desired from that stretch of woods, and had paid for possible damages that might occur. As he bent to the task, there did come a fleeting thought that the patch was weedless and in unusual shape for wild stuff. Then with swift strokes of his light mattock he lifted the roots, crammed them into his sack, whistled to Belshazzar, and going back to the wagon, drove away. Reaching home, he washed the ginseng and spread it on a tray to dry. The first time he wanted the mattock, he realized that he had left it lying where he had worked. It was an implement that he had directed a blacksmith to fashion to meet his requirements. No store contained anything half so useful to him. He had worked with it for years, and it just suited him, so there was nothing to do but go back. Betsy was too tired to return that day, so he planned to dig his ginseng with something else, finish his work the following morning, and get the mattock in the afternoon. "It's like a knife you've carried for years, or a gun," muttered the Harvester. "I actually don't know how to get along without it. What made me so careless I can't imagine. I never before in my life did a trick like that. I wonder if I hurried a little. I certainly was free to take it. He always wanted the stuff dug up. Of all the stupid tricks, Belshazzar, that was the worst. Now Betsy and a half day of wasted time must pay for my carelessness. Since I have to go, I'll look a little farther. Maybe there is more. Those woods used to be full of it." According to this programme, the next afternoon the Harvester again walked down the embankment of the morning river and through the ragged woods to the place where the ginseng had been. He went forward, stepping lightly, as men of his race had walked the forest for ages, swerving to avoid boughs and looking straight ahead. Contrary to his usual custom of coming to heel in a strange wood, Belshazzar suddenly darted around the man and took the path they had followed the previous day. The animal was performing his office in life. He had heard or scented something unusual. The Harvester knew what that meant. He looked inquiringly at the dog, glanced around, and then at the earth. Belshazzar proceeded noiselessly at a rapid pace over the leaves. Suddenly the master saw the dog stop in a stiff point. Lifting his feet lightly and straining his eyes before him, the Harvester passed a spice thicket and came in line. For 1 second he stood as rigid as Belshazzar. The next, his right arm shot upward full length and began describing circles, his open palm heavenward, and into his face leaped a glorified expression of exultation. Face down, in the rifled ginseng bed, lay a sobbing girl. Her frame was long and slender. A thick coil of dark hair bound her head. A second more and the Harvester bent and softly patted Belshazzar's head. The beast broke point and looked up. The man caught the dog's chin in a caressing grip, again touched his head, moved soundless lips, and waved toward the prostrate figure. The dog hesitated. The Harvester made the same motions. Belshazzar softly stepped over the leaves, passed around the feet of the girl, and paused beside her, nose to earth, softly sniffing. In one moment she came swiftly to a sitting posture. "Oh!" she cried in a spasm of fright. Belshazzar reached an investigating nose and wagged an eager tail. "Why, you are a nice, friendly dog," said the trembling voice. He immediately verified this assertion by offering his nose for a kiss. The girl timidly laid a hand on his head. "Heaven knows I'm lonely enough to kiss a dog," she said. "But I suppose you belong to the man who stole my ginseng and then ran away so fast he forgot his piece he digged with." Belshazzar pressed closer. "I am just killed, and I don't care whose dog you are," sobbed the girl. She threw her arms around Belshazzar's neck and laid her white face against his satiny shoulder. The Harvester could endure no more. He took a step forward, his face convulsed with pain. "Please don't," he begged. "I took your ginseng. I'll bring it back to morrow. There wasn't more than $25 or $30 worth. It doesn't amount to one tear." The girl arose so quickly the Harvester could not see how she did it. With a startled fright on her face and the dark eyes swimming, she turned to him in one long look. Words rolled from the lips of the man in a jumble. Behind the tears was a dull, expressionless blue in the girl's eyes, and her face was so white that it appeared blank. He began talking before she could speak, in an effort to secure forgiveness without condemnation. "You see, I grow it for a living on land I own, and I've always gathered all there was in the country and no one cared. There never was enough in one place to pay, and no other man wanted to spend the time, and so I've always felt free to take it. Every one knew I did, and no one ever objected before. Once I paid Henry Jameson for the privilege of cleaning it from these woods. That was 6 or 7 years ago, and it didn't occur to me that I wasn't at liberty to dig what has grown since. I'll bring it back at once and pay you for the shrinkage from gathering it too early. There won't be much over 6 pounds when it's dry. Please, please don't feel badly. Won't you trust me to return it and make good the damage I've done?" The face of the Harvester was eager and his tones appealing as he leaned forward trying to make her understand. "Certainly," said the girl as she bent to pat the dog while she dried her eyes under cover of the movement. "Certainly, it can make no difference." But as the Harvester drew a deep breath of relief, she suddenly straightened to full height and looked straight at him. "Oh, what is the use to tell a pitiful lie?" she cried. "It does make a difference. It makes all the difference in the world. I need that money. I need it unspeakably. I owe a debt I must pay. What did I understand you to say ginseng is worth?" "If you will take a few steps," said the Harvester, "and make yourself comfortable on this log in the shade, I will tell you all I know about it." The girl walked swiftly to the log indicated, seated herself, and waited. The Harvester followed to a respectful distance. "I can't tell to an ounce what wet roots would weigh," he said, as easily as he could command his voice to speak, with the heart in him beating wildly. "And of course they lose greatly in drying, but I've handled enough that I know the weight I carried home will come to 6 pounds at the very least. Then you must figure on some loss because I dug this before it really was ready. It does not reach full growth until September, and if it is taken too soon there is a decrease in weight. I will make that up to you when I return it." The troubled eyes were gazing at his face intently, and the Harvester studied them as he talked. "You would think then there would be all of 6 pounds?" "Yes," said the Harvester, "closer 8. When I replace the shrinkage there is bound to be over 7." "And how much did I understand you to say it brought a pound?" "That all depends," answered he. If you cure it yourself and dry it too much, you lose in weight.